Hey everybody, this is Scott with Ledger Dredger. I'm coming back to you with another use case for Airtable. So, if you're looking to start a podcast, manage a podcast, if you've already got an existing podcast and looking for some way to clean up all the data and everything else, I have a solution for you. It took me all day to create it, but it's pretty cool and I really like it. As you can see by the title of the base, it's a podcast RSS feed creator. What does that mean? That means you don't have to know anything about creating an RSS feed, and you can create one using this tool. So I've entered in some dummy data. This stuff is not real, but this would be a sample of if I wanted to create my own podcast for my business. Who knows? Maybe one day I will. But it's super simple. And once you get the process down of what fields, to fill in on a regular basis, which it makes it as easy as possible, man, you're good. So, this is broken down into 3 tables, and only 2 tables you have to fill in. The third, you just look at and verify that everything is showing up correctly. And then it spits out your RSS feed. And guess what? It even updates as you update the base. So, it's pretty sweet. As you can see, the shows table is our channel data. Now this you only have to fill in one time unless something changes, which it really shouldn't. Maybe the category or something like that if you change your show around, but ideally you fill this in one time, and that's it. So let's look at the data here. Here is the link to the feed table. So that's going to be the show name, and it also populates here. Let me just walk. Let's go and make another one, right? Okay, so boom. I want to create a new show. We'll call it Deep Dives. Boom. You see, populates here, populates the show title, and you're good to go, right? So the link. Also, this has I've included the descriptions and everything from iTunes, and so this is perfect if you're wanting to create an Apple podcast. It follows all of that. I don't know. I haven't looked into like Stitcher and things like that at this point. I don't think I used any iTunes specific. Actually, yeah, I think there is some iTunes specific coding. But it can be easily modified, and I'm going to come up with a tool once I figure out the differences between the different platforms. Come up with a tool for those later on. But what I did was put all the descriptors and everything in on these little information bubbles to tell you, and give you examples of things that they're looking for each individual field, right? And then these asterisk fields are required. So if we go up here to our views, and instead of the edit, these are all the editable fields possible for this particular table. But if we go to just the required fields, it's going to filter out all the other ones. And this is, at a minimum, the required information to be filled in order to make the RSS feed work and pass validation. Okay? So as long as if you fill in everything, then you don't have to worry about it. And it just, makes everything look a little nicer when everything's all filled in. If you're OCD or something like that, like I am. But see, this is the link associated with a podcast. So this will typically be like your home page. And boom. Okay, the show language. Now, this is automatically set up, as you can see here, as English, the US English, to be your default language. If you need any other languages, it's in here. You have to click on this one in order to go down to the link and then open the link there. But it'll give you a list of available languages. You have to use the ISO 639-2 language codes in that table that pops up on the site. So if you speak English and all that, you're good to go. You just create a record, and this is created automatically. The copyright, you don't have to put the copyright symbol. You just put the text after the copyright. The code generates all that automatically for you. So let's say that, and then the author, and then the show description. So we're a show called Deep Dives, and description will be Airtable Deep Dives. Now, the show type, if your show is serial, you have to use this tag. But if it's episodic, which is the default, you don't have to. The difference is all in this. It's if you have content that has to be consumed in sequential order. So we'll say yes. And then this is the owner contact information. So in your feed, there's an owner tag. And so we'll say this. And then the email also falls within that. The image is our podcast image. In the picture that shows up, in iTunes or in whatever else. We'll say this one's education. Now, the category and subcategory is where things get a little bit interesting. It's why this table is actually so long. So, since Airtable does not contain any conditional logic, I can't make these fields appear or disappear or filter these things. I could filter them if I used a link. I don't want to do that. So I just have a bunch of single select menus. Now, at a minimum, the category has to be filled in. And this gives you, the example and the description there. All of these subcategories don't necessarily have to be filled in if you don't want to. But if your category is one of these subcategory names. For instance, this is education, so I go to the education subcategory, and then I can select one. So this would be how to. Okay, and so what this will do is, depending on what information is filled in, at a minimum, like I said, the category has to be filled in, but depending on what information is filled in is going to change the code that your feed spits out. So I'm always a fan of the more information the better, so we'll fill those two in. And then we get down here to the end, explicit, and so this will mark your podcast as explicit or not, true or false. And so we say false here. The new feed are URL at the block and the complete. Now, these three will be of infrequent use, okay? This one is if you have to change your new URL for your feed. This one is to hide your show from the iTunes, being able to search in iTunes, removes it from the directory. And then this one, the complete, is if your show will never be published to again. If you're, say you have something like you create a show around a story or something like that, or a book, and you go through the whole book, well, boom, you check complete, and that'll tell Apple this podcast will never be published to again. So it all changes the code that this whole thing spits out. So these last three will be very infrequent use, if ever. And that's it that sets up our channel code, which is the first section in our feed code. So we go to the next table, the episodes. Now this is where all of your episodes for all of your shows will be housed, right? currently we have just these 2 episodes for this one show. So let's go in and create another one. So our show Deep Dives. Okay. The show name will be populated once we fill in some of these other fields. Okay, so the additional episode field. Now, what we do ideally is group this by the feed link. And now, once we create a new record in either one of these groups, it'll automatically have the show name. And we don't have to worry about, losing information, losing data, losing records, or, whatever else, having to go in and manually put it in and whatnot. It just works now. So it just it's one less thing you have to fill in and one less thing you have to worry about. If you're managing multiple shows, say you're like a podcast management company or podcast booking company or something like that does different podcast shows and stuff like that, makes it a little bit easier to manage the data because you don't have to worry about linking all these things properly, right? But the additional episode checkbox is for every episode following your first episode. So your first episode never receives this check mark. All of the other episodes do in this use case. Okay. And it does make a difference. It will, if you don't select the additional episode, it will not affect the code. It will not make the code ineffective. What it will do is make the code harder to read. Okay. So if you don't check these boxes, it's not like the code that you get won't work at the end. It will still work. It just doesn't look as nice and won't be as readable. For somebody like me, that's kind of an important thing. So I always, I want things to be readable, because I actually know how to read, HTML coding and things like that. So if I ever wanted to edit something on my own or just even go to my feed code and look at it and see and try to find whatever I need to find or whatever the case is, I can just go do that. But if it's not in a readable format, if it's just a big text block, that's hard to do. So this makes it a little bit easier to read and look a little bit more organized. So that's why that exists. But the first episode will never get that. The episode type, I think, let's see, there's trailer, bonus, and full. Full is the default. So, you don't have to fill that in, but I'm, again, OCD. The title. So what's the title of this episode? What we're doing, podcast management, right? And then the description for the episode. Now you can notice that the title, there's only 2 main things, or well, in this case it's 4 fields, but these are really 2 items that are required. Is the title, the URL, the length, and the file type are the only things required in the for each episode. Everything else is just additional data, but it all helps. Like I say, the more information you give it, the better off it'll look. If you don't add an episode description, it won't look as nice when you pull it up in iTunes or whatever platform you're using. So we talk about podcast management. Okay. The URL points to whatever episode or whatever your whatever file your actual audio file is for your podcast episode. The length is, I don't know why they don't call this file size, because that's what it actually is. It's the file size of that particular audio file in bytes. You get that by looking at the file information. You go to get info if you have a Mac. So it's the file size in bytes. This is the file type, and you can see it's a drop down. So there's the PDFs, the audio and video files. These are the ones that it looks for and will accept. The GUID is a globally unique identifier, and it's important. I don't really know much about it, but you need one. If you don't have one, it gives you a link, I think, instead, and you can never change it. So it's always good to have one. We'll just make something up. Okay, then the publish date. Whenever this decides to get published, we'll just make it easy and say today. That gets formatted with some other fields that are working in the background. The duration of the episode in seconds. So we'll go there. Whether or not the episode, this is the episode level, whether or not it is explicit. The image is the episode artwork. Whatever, all these image files have to be publicly hosted somewhere, and so you send the link to it, and the feed pulls it in. This is the episode number, so for this particular one, it'll be episode 1, season 1. And then this block check box is if you want this episode to be hidden and not show up in iTunes. Okay, and that's it. That's all, folks. And so now, once we go to our feed table, boom, everything's already created. And really, all these fields you don't even have to look, even worry about. But this will give you a listing of all your episodes and whatever else. But if we go to our feed view, boom. And this is created once all that information is filled in. This is what it creates. It creates your RSS feed. And then you can take this, copy and paste it into your RSS directory on your website, and then take that URL and tell iTunes or whatever to, this is my RSS feed URL. Boom, there you go. But this will update each time you add a new episode. So this one is just, this one's the deep dives. So there's not as much here. This one has 2 episodes, so there's going to be more data here. Boom. So there's episode 1. There's episode 2. And so this, as you create more episodes and add more data to this, or actually that's episode 1, that's episode 2. As you create more data to it, in here, it'll continually add your episodes to this feed, and then you can just copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste. Or if you just wanted a blank shell, you could just create this, call it blank, and then create one here, but we don't want it. Call it blank. Okay. And then it'll come here, and then we can see just a blank shell of our RSS feed. And then we can copy and paste this. Obviously, we need to enter in some data between these quotation marks and stuff, or delete these lines altogether. Actually, these should be all the required fields. So, you add the information between the quotes and then copy and paste. The white space between won't affect anything. All these lines, when you put it in a feed or in a on your host, it'll ignore the white space, so the white space won't matter. Or you can just manually delete it, but I mean, you just whoops. Well, I guess it won't let me select all, but you literally just come here, Control C, or come here, Control C, and you can paste it anywhere you want. So this is pretty cool. because I myself don't know right offhand. Like I said, I know HTML coding, but I haven't done it in years. And going through all this and getting the formulas to spit out the correct information was fun. Like I said, it took me a good portion of my day today. It took me almost all day. But this is a pretty cool tool. And like I say, if you're not tech savvy and you're looking for an easy way to write an RSS feed or whatever else, you can do it. You don't have to worry about, is the code right or whatever. All you have to do is type in the information in the right blocks, and this thing will spit it all out for you. And here you can actually too, let's say you just wanted to copy part of your feed or whatever. Ooh. Uh-oh. Internet's not apparent. What? Apparently my internet's acting up. But, you could copy part of it. Instead of the whole feed code, there's these hidden fields here of the channel code and the episode code. And this episode code is just this episode table. This channel code is just the shows table. Now you would also need to do the channel closing tags. And these are the three elements that make up this whole feed code. But let's say I just wanted to look at my episode code, I just come in here, and these are my 2 episodes that I've got in here, and I can copy and paste these if I want to paste those somewhere. If I just need my channel information, I come in here, boom, there it is. And then this is all of it together. So you can even segment the stuff out if you wanted, and if you didn't want to have to copy the whole thing. So anyway, if you have any questions, if you would like to implement this, if you would are looking to manage a podcast or looking to start one, I mean, this thing makes your life so much easier. You don't have to hire somebody to do it for you. You can take all of that out of the equation and do it all yourself in a couple of minutes, other than recording your actual content. This will manage everything else for you. Like I said, once you get the first table good, everything filled in, you don't have to do it again. You do it once for each show. Then you just have to fill in one table for the rest of this, and then copy and paste, and that's it. So it makes it super easy, super simple, and you can get out there and get your word out, get your message out. So if you would like to implement this into your business, if you would like to talk to me about it, schedule a call with us, you can go to www.ledgerdredger.com is our website. You can find us on Facebook. You can DM us on Instagram. We're all over the place. There's scheduling links on our webpage. There's a scheduling link on our Facebook page. Get a hold of us. We'd love to sit and talk with you about how Airtable can help supercharge your productivity so that you can go out, serve greater, and make a positive impact in the world around you. And I hope that you could find this useful, and I hope that you're having a great day. I will talk to you soon with another use case, probably here in the near future. So in the meantime, enjoy Airtable, enjoy your family, and I will talk to you soon.